Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Berenberg, and I'm Director of Identity Product Management here at Salesforce. And today I'm going to show you how you can use Salesforce Identity to better connect with your customers and your partners. We're going to start today with a brief introduction to customer identity, as well as Salesforce's capabilities. Now, I understand that this is a developer session, so I'm going to focus more on extensibility and customization use cases. Then I'm going to spend the majority of the session showing you a few demos, showing you how you can use Salesforce Identity or Salesforce Identity in action, how you can then extend Salesforce Identity to provide authentication for your own websites, and then also how you can authenticate connected devices. I'll also provide code samples and documentation at the end if you'd like to try this at home, and hopefully leave plenty of time for questions. So let's jump right into the forward-looking statement. So everything I'm going to talk about and show today is generally available in the product. However, if I do make mention of anything that is not available, please make your purchasing decisions based on what is. So what is Salesforce Identity for customers and partners? Salesforce Identity enables you to engage with your customers across all digital channels through centralized registration, profile management, and single sign-on, essentially making it easier for your customers to get to your applications. And because it's centralized, you have a single view of that customer. You no longer have data silos. So you don't have a different identity for your customer in your registration site, in your storefront, in your service site, in your reward site, et cetera. And because it's centralized, you can also leverage that data for your reporting, for your analytics, as well as feeding back into your back-end business processes. Salesforce Identity also provides full brand control. So your customer is given a consistent brand and experience through each touch point, whether it's logging in, whether it's accessing a separate application or receiving an email. Everything is in a consistent brand. So as your customer wants to engage with your brand, the first step in the journey is registration. And Salesforce Identity provides 3 ways for you to register your customers. The first is forms-based registration, essentially providing a form that your customer enters information, clicks register, and they're given a new account. As your customer navigates to your registration site, if it's hosted on Salesforce, they have 2 options. They can either host it on a force.com URL, so mybrand.force.com, or they can host it on a custom SSL domain, so mybrand.com. We also provide full declarative and programmatic control over the experience. So out of the box, we provide this form that you can see here. It's kind of small, unfortunately. But using Community Builder, you can go in and you can customize the form. You can add new fields if you want to collect the customer's phone number or their title. You can change the text on the form. You can also change the color scheme. Or you can create your own Visualforce pages and Lightning components to fully customize the experience. We also provide examples. So we actually have the source code for the login or for the Lightning components used for login, registration, and forgot password flows available on every customer org. So if you want to take what we've already created and modify the business process behind it, it's very easy to do so. One of the more common customer use cases for this is if your customers don't want to register using their email address, even though we require an email address in the system, you can build a custom flow here so that I can enter in M. Berenberg, and then the controller will actually wrap that with mberenberg@mycompany.com. So from a customer perspective, they're just logging in with their standard username. Next, we support social sign-on. So we have several out-of-the-box social sign-on providers, including Facebook and LinkedIn and Google and Twitter. We also support OpenID Connect, which is the standard protocol for social sign-in. So if you have a social provider that supports the OpenID Connect protocol, with a few lines of configuration, you can easily connect to that provider. For example, PayPal or Amazon support OpenID Connect. Finally, we do understand that not everybody supports open standards. So we've created this custom external authentication provider, which is an abstract class that enables you to essentially write a plugin to connect to any social sign-on provider that supports a way to authenticate and an API to return the authenticated user's information. This is very common for new emerging markets or new social providers. And we do have some examples for this on our GitHub site, which I'll show you at the end, so if you want to see the code. Also, if you create your own and want to contribute back to the developer community, please feel free to reach out to me. We also support APIs for registration. So we have a SCIM API, as well as a standard REST and SOAP-based S-Object APIs. And we have a mobile SDK. So if you want to create your own custom mobile applications, you can use our mobile SDK, and we'll handle all the identity plumbing for you, and you can focus on developing your app. Once you've registered, you're given a user in Salesforce. In addition to that, you're given an account and contact. So if you're not familiar with our CRM data model, the account and contact are essentially the type of relationship that this customer has to your business. And the important thing with that is these objects are trigger and workflow enabled. So if you want to, for example, as new customers register, you want to create a new lead or a new opportunity for them, or you want to kick off a marketing campaign within Marketing Cloud, you can easily plug in custom flows to that creation process or that update process. We also support third-party identity proofing and progressive profiling, as well as consent management. The most common way that this is done is through using a login form. So if you're not familiar with the login form, it's a login flow. As you authenticate, we give you a session that only grants access to a flow that you designate. And the user cannot exit the flow without logging out or completing whatever is described within the flow. So if you want to require that the first time a user logs in, they review and accept your terms and conditions, you can create a login flow to do that. If you're registering a user through social sign-on and the social sign-on provider doesn't provide enough information that you need, may not have the user's email address, or if you have custom fields, then you can inspect that information and present a flow to collect that data from the user at that time. Or if you want to request additional information as the customer continues to engage with your brand, the 5th time they've logged in, you can present additional information to them at that time. And it also is commonly used for collecting information for the customer for security use cases. So we pass a lot of context information into the flow, and you can inspect that information, the location, the IP address, and you can make decisions based on that. You can either pass it to a back-end process, or you can say, this user is coming in from a specific IP range. I'm going to grant them additional access, assign additional permission sets within Salesforce. Finally, we support the ongoing journey for the customer. So your customers typically don't come and register for your site just to register. They want to access your applications, right? So we provide single sign-on to your external applications, your communities, your mobile apps, your custom apps, and your existing web properties. And we do that through the use of standards. So we support SAML and OAuth and OpenID Connect. We also support a connected app plugin, which is a plugin interface that you can implement to customize the experience for single sign-on. So if you want to write custom authorization rules, if you want, for example, to say that users can't access your reward site without performing a certain level of engagement, you can write custom rules to then block access to those applications until those rules are met. Or another common use case is if you want to extend the information that's sent to those applications. If you want to send the complete list of permission sets that are assigned to this user, you can write a custom connected app plugin to create that custom attribute and add it to your SAML assertion, or add it to the user info endpoint used for OpenID Connect, So now your downstream applications can use that information for authorization or whatever they need them for. So if you'd like to try this yourself, we have Trailhead. We have the Secure Identity and Access Management Trail, which provides everything that you would need to set up your own customer portal for identity, including the registration, profile management, and single sign-on out to your apps. So if you'd like to try this at home, I strongly encourage you to do the Trailhead, as well as the Trailhead will set the baseline for what I'm going to show you next. So this story begins with Fix Coffee. Fix Coffee is a brick-and-mortar store that produces coffee and coffee-related products, and they'd like to expand into an online presence. So they set up this identity portal, and they've branded it to Fix Coffee. So as you can see here, we have a custom URL, id.fixcoffee.info. We also have a fully branded page. So Daisy is an avid Fix Coffee customer, and she'd like to authenticate and register for this site. So she comes to the site and she clicks Facebook. So the first thing that she's prompted for is to log in to her Facebook account. And she's also asked to authorize that Fix Coffee view her information. Right, so Fix Coffee would like to create an account for her based on the information returned from Facebook. So Daisy has the option to authorize Fix to have access to that data. Now, since this is the first time that Daisy's logging in, she's presented with the site's terms and conditions page. And of course, she reviews the terms and conditions like everybody does, clicks accept, and now she's into the site. Now, Fix decided to use our community's product for case deflection in addition to identity. So now once Daisy logs in, she has the option to view knowledge articles about Fix and their products, as well as collaborate with other Fix Coffee customers and log cases back to Fix support representatives. From an identity perspective, she also has full control over her profile. So if her email address changes, or if her title or name changes, she can easily come in and modify that information. She can also control how Fix is going to engage with her, whether she prefers email or whether she prefers mobile engagement. And she can control her social sign-on linking. So because I logged in with Facebook, she's automatically linked to her Facebook account. If she'd like to log in with Google next time, as she logs in with Google, we have linking flows that can then bind her Google account to this account or this user in Salesforce automatically, or she has the option to link them manually herself, or more importantly, unlink them herself if she no longer wants Fix to be associated with her Facebook. So Daisy's having a great time on the site, and she wants to blog about it. So she sees that Fix Coffee has a blog, and by selecting the link, she's provided SAML single sign-on out to WordPress as herself, using SAML JIT to create an account for her so that then she could blog about her experience. So Daisy's very happy, and because Daisy's happy and other customers are happy, Fix is very happy. So they want to expand their online presence. So they decide to create a new online Fix Coffee store. And they've created this site in Heroku. Now, they want to authenticate this site using the same identity information that they have on their original portal. So they have a few options. They can either create their own identity store in Fix and do data syncing, which is horrible. They can get an open source module or library to add OpenID Connect or SAML to the page, and then wire the page back to Salesforce as a service provider. Or with just a few lines of metadata, meta tags, they can connect the site using Embedded Login, a new feature that we just released as part of Summer 17. So let me show you how easy that is to set up. So embedded login, actually, there's a servlet hosted on Salesforce that hosts JavaScript and CSS. And with those meta tags, you can pull those resources into your site. So the first step is to create cores. So because Salesforce is going to host information off of the Salesforce platform, or off of force.com, it needs to trust the new website. So we create cores for this, and now Salesforce can trust that site. We also need a connected app. So I'll go to App Manager and create a new connected app. And for this connected app, we're going to use OAuth, more specifically OpenID Connect. The first step here is to set a callback URL. So as the user authenticates into Salesforce, Salesforce is going to create an access token for them, and it needs to know where to send that access token. So we create a callback URL, which is the location on your web page that's going to receive the access token. So I'm going to call this callback.php, which we're going to create here in a moment. I'm also going to authorize this app to the OpenID Connect scope. So as I save the app, we're given a consumer key, which we're going to need here in a minute, so I'll make a copy. And finally, the last step in Salesforce is to authorize this app for all of your customers. So if you remember, during the Facebook flow, Daisy was prompted to authorize Facebook or authorize Fix to access her Facebook information. You don't want to do this when your customer is logging into a site that you already own. So I'll switch permitted users to admin approved. And I will authorize this app for my customer profile, which is given to all my new customers. All right, now it's time to set up embedded login. So this is all the information that I need for embedded login. It essentially tells your site where to pull the information from Salesforce and what experience to deliver. So the first thing we need is the actual URL for your Salesforce portal. We need the consumer key for the app that I just created. We need the callback URL, which I'm going to create here in a moment, and some additional attributes to describe the experience. What type of mode do I want to present to the user? Do I want to present a modal? Right? Do I want to present the option to register for a new account, a self-service registration URL? Do I want to provide a password or a forgot password link? And we also specify the servlet where the CSS and the JavaScript are hosted. So I'll make a copy of this and paste it into my site. And we need to create the callback page. So this is an example callback page. As you can see, it has very similar information to the meta tags we added to the original site. So I have the name of the community, I have the mode, and most importantly, I have this save access token tag. So once Daisy authenticates from the site back into Salesforce, Salesforce is going to give the site an access token. And that access token is going to be used to request Daisy's information. Once the site has Daisy's information, you have a decision. Do you just want to use the information that's provided, or do you need to retain the access token so that your site can then engage back with Salesforce on Daisy's behalf? So if your site is going to provide options for Daisy to update her information, or you need to write back information to a custom object, then you can retain the access token and be able to do that. So I'm going to commit this to Git and redeploy my app. And in just a minute, we'll have the new app. Perfect. So now, as you can see, we have the new login button here. If I select the login button, I'm presented with a login modal. Now, you can choose whether you want to present a modal, whether you want to do a pop-up window, or if you want to present this inline directly in the page with just a quick change of the meta tag. It's also important to notice that this looks nearly identical to what you had on your original portal. We take the brand information that you've configured. We take the social sign-on providers that you've configured, and we pull this across into your page. So you don't need to duplicate that configuration. Also, if you change your supported social sign-on providers or your brand, that will automatically be reflected in all of the sites that are using embedded login. Another important aspect to this is that if you're an international customer, because we're using the servlet will identify what browser or what locale you're using for your browser and automatically present the login experience in the language that you need. One other consideration is that if you don't like this experience, you can actually customize the CSS that's present here. So as I showed you in the meta tags, we specified where to pull the CSS from. If you want to use your own repository, if you want to copy what we've provided and make adjustments and then store that in a static resource and host it, you're able to do that, or you can just override it directly within your page. So you have full control even within your own custom sites as well. So I'll log in using Facebook again. And since we've already authorized Fix Coffee for Facebook, Salesforce is brokering the authentication on this site's behalf. And here I can see I'm logged in as Daisy. The site also receives a lot of information about Daisy. So here's everything that the user info endpoint currently exposes. So we have her name and her profile information. We also have her access token, so we can connect back to Fix on her behalf. Also, if you want to use the Connected App plugin that I mentioned earlier, you can extend what's provided here. So you can add additional custom attributes. And because she logged in using Salesforce, she can seamlessly navigate between the store and Salesforce and back again. And you can actually do single sign-on from the portal out to the sites supporting embedded login. All right, so Daisy is loving her experience, and she decides to make a purchase on the Fix Coffee store. And she buys a new connected espresso machine. So the espresso machine arrives, and she'd like to connect the espresso machine back to Salesforce. So fortunately for her, Fix is using asset tokens from Salesforce. What an access token is, an asset token is it's a standard JOT, or JSON Web Token, that contains additional information about the connected product and about the customer. So what you would do is you can upload a certificate within Salesforce. Salesforce will generate this JOT and sign it with the certificate, hand it to the product, and then as the product needs to communicate to your IoT backend, it can send that JOT. Your IoT backend can validate the certificate, authenticate the data, and then extract the claims out of the JOT and recognize that this data was coming from a specific product for a specific customer. So let me show you how this works. The first step is turning on the connected espresso machine. So because the espresso machine is not going to come with a keyboard and a mouse, she's not able to directly enter in her Salesforce or Fix Coffee credentials. So we present a QR code. Now, I can use my mobile phone to scan the QR code, which will automatically take me to the Fix Coffee website. Or I do have the site provided here, and since I'm on a computer, I can click it directly. So this is going to use device flow to connect the espresso machine back into Salesforce. If you're unfamiliar with device flow, it's the same flow that you would use to connect your Netflix account to your smart TV. Right? You open the Netflix app, it presents you with a code, you log into Netflix, you enter the code, and then the device is now connected. So I'm going to connect the espresso machine to Daisy. And behind the scenes in Salesforce, this creates a new asset object. So now we know that there's a new connected espresso machine with this serial number that is connected to Daisy. And we also set the asset token to the espresso machine. So now the espresso machine can communicate with an IoT backend. So if I look at IoT Cloud, I can see that we're connected, and the espresso machine is creating espresso that's nice and hot. If I then decrease the temperature of the espresso machine, IoT Cloud picks up that temperature change and registers it. And if I make it too hot, IoT Cloud sees that as well. So then within IoT Cloud, you can define rules that can take action on Daisy's behalf because of this. So in this example, I've created a rule that if the espresso machine is malfunctioning and not delivering at the right temperature, we need to create a case in Salesforce. So you can see here that a new case was just created for Daisy's connected espresso machine. And now Daisy doesn't have to spend an hour on the phone calling the company to log a case. A service agent now sees that there's a problem and can dispatch a field service technician to fix it, delivering an amazing experience for Daisy because it just saved her a ton of time. So if you'd like to learn more, the embedded login example is available here on our GitHub, or our GitHub site. So that will include the storefront that I showed, as well as everything that you need, coupled with the Trailhead to create the store example. If you'd like to learn more about asset tokens, please go to this site here. That provides very technical, detailed information about asset token, as well as a hands-on walkthrough of the entire protocol from authentication and issuing the JOT, as well as a breakdown of all the claims within the JOT, so you can understand and implement it for your IoT backend. We also have the developer site and additional resources up on YouTube. I think this session is actually going to be recorded and available on YouTube as well if you'd like to review it. And of course, our Salesforce Identity group on Chatter. So thank you very much for your time. Any questions? Yes? Yes and no. So for customer identity today, you can support two-factor authentication by adjusting the session strength on the user's profile to require a high assurance session, and that will require 2FA, including our 2FA app and TOTP. You also have the option to create your own Visualforce page with a controller that can connect to Trulio. So a lot of our customers want to provide SMS or email-based 2FA. So we have example code that's actually available on that GitHub site as well for you to connect for SMS, forgot password, or for login. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Yes? I'm not quite sure. I'll have to connect offline. Sorry, I'll give you my card and I can double check with our developers. Okay, yes? So it does. The most common pattern with Marketing Cloud is, again, triggering off of the user creation within Salesforce. So we have examples, which I'm happy to show you later, where as the new user is created, that information is then passed into Marketing Cloud using Marketing Cloud Connect, and it starts the one-on-one customer journey. So it can send the welcome email through Marketing Cloud, and that can then continue to engage with that customer. Yes? Sorry? It currently does not integrate with Commerce Cloud, but it is on our roadmap. Safe harbor. Yeah. Yes? Sorry? Session timeout for the access token on the store. The session timeout for the access token is based on the session timeout configured for the user within Salesforce. So on your profile, you can set whatever session timeout you need. OK. Any other questions? All right. Well, we still have a few minutes. I'll stick around if you have any other questions. Please feel free to come up. If not, enjoy the rest of Trailhead DX. Thank you very much for coming.